I'm just tired of it.
It's ridiculous.
I'd like to backtrack. Can I backtrack just for a minute to speak on what Sasha was saying about movements? Because I find it really interesting that with the advent of the police brutality and murders of black individuals, that they started the Black Lives Matter movement is making such a fuss at candidates' rallies and so forth and getting all this attention. And then I understand they were founded by so-called queer women, black queer women.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
And are supposedly speaking for trans black lives, but they only mention us in passing. And when it comes to the real fuss, it's all about these cis deaths at police hands and police violence, but they are not really giving any real focus to the trans deaths that have continued to happen over and above Sandra Bland, over and above Eric Garner, over and above. They're not mentioning any of the trans names.
Of course not, because they don't care. They want us
but
to
they were founded by African American queer women.
They don't care about most of the people that are founding these organizations, these so-called movements. They don't care about us. But I tell you what, let someone say, well, we have this funding for you, for your organization that's trans-specific.
If you include trans.
Oh, honey, we'll be the toast of the town. Oh, they'd roll out the red carpet until that funding is gone, and then they're gone. That's just the reality of it. They don't care about us.
My personal belief is that if the only time that you're talking about trans issues is on a day that we remember our dead, I can do without it.
Absolutely.
If TDOR, if Transgender Day of Remembrance, is the only time that you say something about the trans community in a positive way about how horrible it is when, that members of our community are being killed, no. I need to see those words out of you. While we're alive, why don't you take that effort and put it towards keeping us alive? Why don't you take that effort and talk to your legislators about some of these laws that we live under? Why don't you talk to people who say trans, phobic jokes and all the other racist and transphobic things that happen? Why aren't you speaking on those other days? Why is it that it's only after those people are already dead that you mourn them?
Because they're joining in on the fun. When people are making those transphobic jokes, racist jokes, whatever, our so-called allies, LGBT people, they're standing back, laughing along with it, and they're afraid to speak up. Because then someone is going to say, why are you so concerned about trans people? Are you trans people? Do you love trans people? That's just a common thing. Specifically, I just spoke with an African-American person just the other day that was talking about a trans person. They're a teacher, and they were being discriminated against or abused, and no one stood up for them. But he said that he didn't say anything while it was going on because he didn't want the backlash of, so why are you so sensitive to transgender people? Why are you standing up for them? And then he said that he went later and talked to the person personally, privately. But that doesn't help us. If you're going to stand there while people are discriminating against us and being transphobic in your face, and if you can't stand up and say that's wrong and you shouldn't do that right then and there, then don't waste your time trying to get with us privately. That doesn't help us, or that doesn't help anyone else coming behind us.
Right, and it doesn't help to tell the people that were causing that problem that what they're doing is wrong and that you don't stand for that.
Right. You're going to do it when no one is around. How is that helping anybody?
So that's actually a good point that I see a lot of people discussing in the media, particularly social media. But I'd like to get your take on how, we were talking about things that kind of contribute to this culture of violence. And, you had mentioned something about an African-American individual who I assume you said you used male pronouns, so I'm assuming this was a cis man.
He was a gay man, yes. He's cis, yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. So one of the things that I found interesting is that there's been a lot of discussion around the stigma of loving trans women, particularly in the when that person is a cis man, because a lot of these murders are happening whether it is by strangers or by interpersonal, violence or whatever.
Yes.
It is happening at the hands of cis men, and you have to wonder how many of these were people that may or may not have been dating them and felt like they were quote-unquote duped or whatever the case may be, and are ashamed of the fact that they love trans women. And the stigma around that, like, I don't know if any of you want to speak to that stigma and how that can kind of, add to the violence that trans women in our community face, but I feel like it's pretty substantial.
Absolutely. You have a lot of men who are attracted to trans women, heterosexual men in most cases, right, who are attracted. Like you said, it's the stigma. It's the fact that they're attracted to a transgender person and they're afraid of what their friends and family will say. It's just very frustrating, to know that there are people who are intimately involved with trans people, but for whatever reason, they're in domestic violence relationships and are murdered, and then they can just say, well, I didn't know that they were trans, and they fooled me, and et cetera, et cetera. Right. It's just really outrageous, and I don't like outing people. However, I think that, until people are comfortable with, most heterosexual men don't want to be identified as gay, because they're with a trans person. And what I'd like to do is educate people. Just because you're attracted or intimate with a transgender person, that doesn't mean you're necessarily gay. So I think once that shift begins, I think a lot more people will start understanding that, no, you're not necessarily gay if you're intimate or attracted to a transgender person. And then their friends and family need to stop bullying them or, making transphobic jokes if they find out that their family member or friend is in a relationship with a with a transgender person.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the whole idea that there is this homophobia or this internalized gay panic. It goes back to the misinformation that, again, that trans women are not women, which is not true. Trans women are women, and so when you think about, if you like a trans person, if you're a cis man that is attracted to a trans woman, you think that you're gay. And in fact, no, because then you're basically what you're saying is that trans women are men. And so that goes back to what Cheryl was talking about earlier with the misuse of pronouns and the misgendering and all that, like these tiny, that aren't tiny, but these all of these different things just compile into creating this stigma and this system of oppression that leads to this massive amount of violence that is directed at some of the most vulnerable members of our population.
Yes, absolutely.
This is Sasha. I would just love to add, too, that I think oftentimes, people are always confusing gender and sexuality and thinking one is the other. But I always tell people, trans people have sexualities, too. We are part of the L, the G, and the B, and are also straight and questioning and queer and fluid. So when people think that the T is all separate from those larger communities, no. If you have a group of lesbians and you don't have a trans person there, a trans woman there, or a group of gay men and you don't see, trans men there, you're actually, you're continuing to marginalize and erase our community around sexuality, love, the things that actually, in terms of those communities, are things that are supposed to bring us together. And I will say myself as a black trans, person, my wife is a black trans woman. I mean, as a trans masculine person, the kind of violence I face is very different than the kind of violence that my wife faces on a daily. And with her, I am like constantly in shock, having been, raised before I came out as trans, as being treated as a girl and facing violence, seeing the immense violence that people think it's okay to put on her body because she's a trans woman, a black trans woman, it is immense. I mean, we're talking every day, fighting, defending herself, pictures getting taken, people tapping people. It is so much trauma. And so the role that love plays is so serious. And when you look at a lot of these murders, are from people that were involved with people, it's so important, like folks were just saying, that we are open about our love and open about being loved and loving other folks, because I believe that is a part of our movement as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just a little background on my personal history. When I was single, I had two main rules that I live by, especially when dating. I never dated married men, and I never dated anyone whom I found who were interested in me as a trans person, but then they had these hang-ups about being intimate or being in a relationship with a transgender person. I never want to be someone's little private joy, someone's little secret. So I refused it. When I found out that someone that I was interested in or was interested in me and we've gone out or whatever, and if I found out that they had issues with being intimate or feeling that they're gay just because they're with me, then that was it, you know. And I think we as trans people should take on some of the responsibility, because if we continue to date these people and be intimate with these people, knowing very well that they have issues with who we are and have their own hang-ups, then that's on us. I refuse to do so. And I've been with my spouse it'll be 20 years next April the 25th. And he's a heterosexual man because I've never been attracted to gay men. And when we dated, I paid attention to him. I put him through these tests to see if he was the person that I wanted to continue to get involved with and become intimately involved with. And fortunately, he passed the test. So I think it's up to us to sometimes have these little rules and have these tests so we don't get emotionally involved with someone who's unemotionally available, that's not available to us.
Yeah, I think that we all have so much that we're worrying about, whether it's, you know, staying alive or facing all the other things that we have. We don't really have time to try to deal with someone who claims to love us, but when you really break it down, doesn't really love all of us.
No.
So I absolutely agree with that.
And if you can't introduce me to your family and we're supposed to be dating in a long-term relationship, then I don't need you.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Get all that.
Yes, exactly. So, and I think that, you know, that comes with having the confidence in yourself and the comfort with yourself to say, this is what I'm worth, and this is what I'm going to put up with, and this is what I'm not going to put up with.
Yes.
And so, yeah. So let's talk a little bit. I mean, I could talk about this forever, but let's talk a little bit. One of the things that I hear almost constantly, every time I send a text to my wife or to a friend about another person died, and it's gotten to the point where all I have to do is type a name and an age and a city and send it, and the person knows exactly what happened, and it's just that's a sad thing in itself. But one of the most common things that I hear when I post this stuff on social media and I get pissed off on social media or in conversations with friends or with my wife or whatever the case may be is, what do I do? Like, what can I do? Like, there are so many people inside and outside the trans community, those that are true allies, but mostly people that are inside the trans community that are feeling incredibly helpless right now, and they are searching for any way that they can to help. And so I guess my question to each one of you, because I'd like to hear each one of your opinions, is how do we, either as trans women of color or as trans people that are not of color or even allies to trans people, how do we uplift the voices and lived experiences of trans women, particularly trans women of color?
Could you repeat that question?
How do we, even whether we're trans women of color or not, how do we uplift the voices and the lived experiences of trans women, particularly trans women of color? Because I feel like uplifting those voices, saying these people are here, saying we support you, and not speaking over them is one of the ways to say this person is worth everything that any other person on this earth is worth, and you cannot keep murdering these people without some kind of retribution. So how do we uplift those voices and lived experiences of trans women?
Well, the first thing, this is Cheryl, the first thing we have to do is we have to organize ourselves and start a movement, not just a hashtag movement, but an in-life, real-time, in-your-face movement, just like Tracy said. And those people who would be allies have to climb on board. Just like she said, ACT UP started with a small group of gay men who were determined not to die anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's what we need, a modern-day ACT UP for trans people.
And put together a group of activists who were determined